This is Making Waves, where we showcase student graduate reporting from Troy University's Hall School of Journalism and Troy Public Radio. I'm your host, Jamison Spees. Katy Ganaway worked at Troy Public Radio back in 2014 before graduating with a bachelor's degree in journalism. Then, she moved back to her hometown of Huntsville, Alabama, and took up a position as host and program director at WLRH, Huntsville's public radio station. She's worked as a local host and producer on shows like All Things Considered, Morning Edition, and her very own creation, Arts Underground. Can you start by talking a little bit about your connection to Troy Public Radio?
I was introduced to radio in general right after high school. My mom saw that WZYP here in Huntsville needed interns, so I got started that way, just doing street team stuff really. And then after a couple of years of that, I figured, Calhoun is great to get my associates, but I really want to study journalism. So I had competed in a drama competition, Trumbauer, in 2009 when I went to Bob Jones in Huntsville, and remembered Troy for that, purpose, having a Hall School of Journalism. So applied there, got in, and I did 2 years of study at Troy. My first year, I tried a couple of different avenues of journalism, one being Trojan Vision, but that wasn't really my thing, the TV side of things. So I talked to my counselor, and she was nice enough to refer me to Troy Public Radio down the hall. I had no idea about public radio. I hadn't really listened to it before. I knew about, NPR, but that was about it. Went to Kyle Gassett's office, and he was kind of interested in why I was trying to work there as a student intern. And I gave him a little bit of an essay's worth of information, and he let me on.
How do you think that connection helped you now? Because you're currently working in radio.
I owe pretty much everything to Kyle because he taught me how to really, be nonpartisan and really get to the heart of a story, and gave me so many wonderful opportunities to talk with people in our community who have such historic depth. The main one being when they were filming the movie Selma in Montgomery. I got to speak with some actual civil rights leaders from that time period for a project that we were doing.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. So what does your programming look like? I saw that you were involved in something called Arts Underground. Can you talk a little bit about all of that?
Of course. We here at WLRH have 9 local programs. We're actually looking to add on 2 more. One of them is going to be about local politics and state politics. We're working with Alabama Public Television Capitol Journal for that. And we're also launching a STEM-focused program that's more quirky than your regular science sort of based program called Curiosity Squad. But my program is Arts Underground, and I talk to local creatives in the community who you might not see coverage of elsewhere in regular media. And, being in public radio, I have the benefit of being able to sit down with somebody for half an hour rather than 5 minutes or so. That's kind of what I do on Arts Underground. I have a few different series. I have one that is called Funny You Should Ask, and that is literally just sitting down with local comedians, getting to know their story and what their aspirations are in the comedy scene. I have one called Behind Our Local Music Scene, so not talking to our local musicians, but the people who make those shows happen. So videographers, the people who run the sound and, film music videos.
Do you have a favorite episode of that you've gotten to do?
Oh my gosh, yes. So there was this amazing, unique opportunity where John Waters, the film director, I've been a fan since I was like 12 years old, and he was coming to Low Mill, which is a sort of artist collective here in Huntsville, to do his stand-up show / funny lecture. I don't really know how to categorize it. But about a week before that, I was able to get him on the phone for Arts Underground and talk with him.
Well, let's go ahead and play a clip from that interview.
Hey friends, you're tuned in to Arts Underground. I'm your host, Katy Ganaway. We have a very special guest here today. He's accomplished so much in his career, spanning 5 decades. Filmmaker, author, artist, actor, journalist, and the Pope of Trash himself. That is John Waters. Thank you for taking the time, John.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
All right. So I wonder, how do you feel about public radio?
Public radio, well, I'm all for any kinds of communication. I like the media. That's the first thing I tell anybody that wants to be in show business. Make peace with the media, because we use each other. We get free ads from them, and they get material for free from us. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you must be rich, you're in the papers all the time. They actually think you get paid to do interviews. That's a common thing that the general public thinks. But so I get 6 papers delivered every morning. I read about 7 more online because I need current events for my material. That's why I never understand why anybody would be on any of these websites where you give away your material every day. I would never do that. That's how I make my living.
And we hope that you come by WLRH maybe when you come to Huntsville. That'd be really cool.
Well, I'm not coming by to any radio station.
Okay.
No, because I'm only there for an afternoon and I'm booked the entire time.
Right. So you are headed down south here to Huntsville next week to Low Mill Arts and Entertainment. That is for their event Other Rama, and that is Friday, October 21st. And you're giving your talk False Negative. So can you briefly let us know what excitement we're in for?
Well, it's even more exciting because False Negative was the show I did for the whole last year, but I'm switching and giving you the brand new one that's never been performed except twice.
Oh.
And so you're going to get the most up-to-date, newest one. If I had done False Negative, you would have liked it too. But I think this is my newer version, which is almost completely different and I think very up-to-date.
And what can we expect in that talk?
Hopefully be able to laugh at everything that's terrible going on right now in the world, and I'm going to tell you how to fix it. So it's optimistic, even though it seems like it's the end of the world.
And now moving on a little bit to your time here at Troy Public Radio. Do you have a favorite story you got to cover?
One that stands out is when Joey actually started. He was covering, it was a local theater performance there at Troy. I think it was a Shakespearean one. But I remember, being there to be his producer and helping him make questions for that, and that was really fun. Oh, there was one that Kyle took me on outside of that one, the Sacred Harp Singers. I was able to go with him and just stand in the room while people, read off their sheet music, and it was an ethereal experience.
From all of your time working in public media, do you have something that you think is the most impactful, the thing that either reached the most people or that really changed your perspective on something?
I thought that I had pretty much honed my craft pretty well after Troy Public Radio, coming here to WLRH in 2015, to where I was really ready to listen to people and have real conversations. But I really got to know what it's like to listen and respond rather than looking at my list of questions when I did this series called The Hard Part. And that was a series of talking to different people who were involved with the racial justice movement here in Huntsville. June 3rd, it was a big day. After George Floyd's death, people were protesting. Local law enforcement were out, and it was just chaos out downtown Huntsville. And I wasn't able to be on the scene, but, creating that series was my contribution to sort of covering that and getting actual, humanistic stories behind not only protesters, but people who are on the Huntsville Police Citizens Advisory Council and the local NAACP chapter. Just really being able to shut up and listen and not being anxious about, the next thing that I'm going to ask or say. That's kind of what being in public media has taught me, is really slowing down and listening to the person and just realizing that they're not your interviewee, they're another person sitting in front of you sharing their vulnerability with you.
Is there a moment from The Hard Part that kind of sticks with you?
Before this series, the Hard Part series, I had this weird fear of authority. Like I did not want to do police interviews or anything like that, or be even near a jail. It just freaked me out. It was one of my phobias. And so learning that I needed to talk to the chief of police 2 days after that June 3rd event happened, I was able to sit down and have a conversation with him. But I overcame that fear, so that was pretty cool.
Well, then let's listen to just a minute of that interview with the chief of police.
So, Katie, my name is Mark McMurray. I'm the chief of police in the city of Huntsville.
All Right, and let's start off by talking about the training here at HPD. With 1,000 people at the first two protests, more than 1,200 people on Wednesday, of course there had to be some training for these protests. So what sort of training for these situations have the officers received in preparation?
Okay, so the training with the Huntsville Police Department, we have a specialized squad of all hazard response members, approximately 50 members of the Huntsville Police Department. They're made up of uniformed patrol officers from all three shifts, and they get together one day a month, each month, and train on a different type of hazard.
Another moment I think I would say is we had two people come in who were both at that June 3rd protest, and one was just sort of like a person who was filming on their phone, and the other person was on their bicycle riding around town, giving people milk for their eyes for the tear gas and making sure people were okay. We were watching some of these videos online after it had happened and thought about what if we brought both of them in here to talk about their experience, because they had this brief interaction where the guy on the bike came and gave milk to the guy who was filming because he was tear gassed. So they both came in, and it was a very emotional experience. The guy who was filming teared up quite a bit and sort of gave pause and respect to the conversation to see if, we could get past that point. But it was a really nice conversation and a really nice opportunity to be able to bring those two people together again in a more calm setting to, get both of their accounts on what happened.
Well, that's amazing. I really appreciate you sharing that. And now let's listen to a minute of that interview with Eric and Andrew.
My objective initially was to be a part of history. I didn't want this to happen and I not be there to see it. And I got there. There was there was speeches. There was some stuff happened, even down there when it was beautiful. There was no altercations. There was no friction. There was no police presence. And so, but one of my friends called me, Sherelle Powers called me, and she said, "Are you gonna be at the protest?" And I was like, "I'm leaving." She's like, "No, there's a protest in front of the courthouse." I was like, "Oh, let me get my battery pack and go back up there." So I walked back from in front of the park, back around the park, up the stairs, and it is a sea of people in front of the courthouse. Everything is fine.
And Andy, could you tell us why?
I guess same thing as like what Eric said is just, I just wanted to see this. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in that sea of sentiment. I went to the protest that was on Monday, June 1st, and I had a sign that said, it could have been my student. Because, I have students from all kinds of backgrounds, and it's one of the things I love about some of the groups I work with. It's pretty, wide variety of, backgrounds and experiences. And I did not want to be that teacher that didn't stick up for students or voice that opinion in that manner. And actually several of my students were in the crowd on both Monday and Wednesday. So it's just to be there, just to say, hey man, this is something I support. This is something I agree with. And I think more people kind of look like me need to be that way.
Shifting gears just a little bit, do you have a most entertaining story or the time where you've really just had a great dynamic with someone?
The Orion Amphitheater here was having a celebration for Fame Recording Studio's 65th anniversary, and I wanted to do an episode of my show on a little bit of the history of Fame, but I, talked to Rodney Hall, who's the president of Fame Recording Studios. I didn't know where we were going to set up to record, but he took me in this sort of back room that's not really even hidden. Like, the door is not hidden. It's right when you walk into the gift shop, but you don't know what's back there. And there are recordings from just several, famous musicians back there, original recordings that you're just sitting in front of. And I was in awe the entire time. So that was a really cool setting. I really wanted to do a Splendid Table type episode one time. There's a bakery that used to exist that's closed now called the Baking Tist, and she was a scientist, and she's actually married to a local comedian, so that's how I got in touch with her. She showed me how to do sourdough, how to make sourdough bread, and it was just so fun getting messy and She let me use an apron, thank God, because it would have made my clothes disgusting that day. But it was fun to learn how to make sourdough and just joke around in her kitchen.
How do you think that working for Troy Public Radio kind of puts you on a trajectory for where you are now and what you're doing?
Kyle not really giving me assignments, but encouraging me to develop my interest based on, the news that was happening around Troy and the Wiregrass region, allowing me to be creative and get that, audio myself and be myself. That's really what helped me get to be where I am today. Whereas when I first started here at WLRH, I thought, I'm going to have to tone everything down. I can't really be myself. I have to be very professional all the time. It turned out, no, I was able to, when I acquired being the host of Arts Underground, I was really able to just let my freak flag fly, I guess, and just indulge in sort of the oddities around the Tennessee Valley. And just that individualism didn't ever go away, from when I was at Troy Public Radio. And I'm really appreciative of that.
If there was one thing that our listeners could walk away with from you kind of reflecting and talking about what you're doing currently, what do you think that one thing would be? Public
radio really allows you to get to know a person and be intentional in your listening. And that's something that I've gathered, working in public radio for now 12 years. Public media allows me to really get to know a person and not have to shoo them away because I have somebody else coming in 10 minutes or something, Being able to really get to know somebody and create connection in your community rather than having a fleeting moment. And, that's going to happen in public media too, where you meet somebody, you might never see them again. But a lot of the time I've developed these relationships in the community where I'm able to see them at a local event or at a grocery store or whatever, and they become my friends essentially. I really value that. I really value being able to forge those connections.
Well, Katy Ganaway, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Jameson. I appreciate it.
This has been Making Waves with Troy University journalism graduate and WLRH Huntsville host and program director, Katy Ganaway. If you'd like to hear more of Ganaway's work, you can find her at WLRH.org/Arts Underground. If you'd like to hear more stories from Making Waves, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to share the show with your friends and leave us a review. I'm Jameson Spees, inviting you to join us for the next big splash on Making Waves.